Since its creation in the 1920s, television has integrated its way into the fabrics of our lives. Audiences' identities became a crucial part of the television experience, an experience NYU professor Katie Hornick discusses in her class, Television, Problems and Contemporary Criticism.
When I was a very young child, when I learned right around the time I learned to read, I realized that they had television listings in the newspaper every day, and I would get very excited about new shows coming out. I always just thought I was very fascinated by television, and I didn't grow up in one of those families where you weren't allowed to watch TV. We all watched it.
The fascination is what kept families glued to their screens and allowed television to become essential and influential in the lives of the average American.
I compare it to religion. I compare it to culture. I compare it to family. I feel that's how impactful media is. Many times when we don't like our church, we don't like our mosque, we don't like whichever religion we belong to, or we don't like our culture, what do? We sit down in front of a screen or we watch something on a screen.
Television had become personal. TV characters became the encapsulation of what many aspired to be like, and the line between reality and fiction blurred. And as reality blurred, the link between television and the personal identity of viewers merged together, leading to the creation of one of the most recognizable genres in television, the family sitcom.
Robert Young and Jane White, with Eleanor Donahue, Billy Gray, and Lauren Chapin in Father Knows Best.
Fresh off the heels of World War II, television showrunners and writers knew the American people needed to be brought together, and the family sitcom was created to provide the fix Americans needed.
What does everybody have? A family, right? Even if you don't talk to your family, even if you are estranged from your family, you still have a family, or you have a found family or a chosen family. And so these stories, I think, resonate because they are universal.
By the late 1950s, there were almost 20 family sitcoms on the air at the same time, the most popular of them being I Love Lucy, that brought in 11 million viewers a week. But within each sitcom family, it was hard to miss the characters that were pushed to the front and the characters that were pushed aside.
In the 1950s, in that generation, it was like the men come home from war, they marry, they're setting up families. There's this explosion of like the nuclear family and the middle class. So many television shows are about families like that. The dad went out to work, the mother stayed at home, vacuuming and making cookies all day long,
Embedded in these sitcoms was an ideal of what the American family was supposed to be. The father was the strong patriarch, often funny and charming, but the wife was never seen outside the confines of her home. She cooked and she cleaned and loved her family, but who she was never explored. She seemed forever stuck in her role. And hence the formation of the perfect woman was born from writers' rooms, full of men who profited off the idea of the American housewife.
So, the family sitcom came to its heyday on network television, right, which used to depend on advertising dollars. And so to get the most amount of advertising dollars, they had to get the most eyes on their shows. And so they had to make them appeal to the broadest possible audience.
Slowly, the role of the family sitcom evolved from entertainment to a social tool used to solidify misogynistic ideas of what women were supposed to be in society.
We get messages as young girls, right? We get messages from birth, really, right? The toys that we play with. Young girls are given baby dolls, right? Are given kitchen sets. Even the commercials, or I should say commercials, that dates me a little bit, but the advertisements and the commercials we would get were always, or little makeup kits, things that were inherently feminine, whatever that means, that were taught to us, right? And if you were playing with things like trucks or like toys or something like that, you would be corrected.
The rise of the 50s sitcom family does not only reveal America's complex history with women's rights, but it provides context to the state of the world we're in today.
It's the same thing when we hear something over and over again, right? We get it ingrained in our mind. If we see something over and over and over again and don't see anything to counter that, we see that as, well, that's the way that things are supposed to be.
Time has brought substantial changes for women's rights, and the representation of women on screen has shown this. Family sitcoms still exist today, but showcase the mother as much more than a housewife. But this doesn't mean that there aren't forces at play pushing against this change.
In court today, an historic upheaval. In a sweeping ruling that overturned a half a century of precedents, 5 justices ended the right of American women to choose abortion under the Constitution.
It's a raucous atmosphere, Jose. You know, demonstrators from both sides of this issue have been coming here every day that opinions were to be announced in anticipation of this. When the opinion came down on the website, a cheer went up, obviously, from the anti-abortion rights forces.
The overturning of Roe v. Wade in 2022 ended the federal right to an abortion, complicating a woman's ability to get one. This decision not only takes away a woman's right to choose when or if she wants to be a mother, but it also highlights a part of society that still believes that womanhood and motherhood are one of the same, and the traditional family developed and made popular by the 50s family sitcom should be protected at all costs.
It's also, there's a reason why women and young girls in particular, why we're seeing the reversal of Roe v. Wade. We're seeing a lot of tracking and surveillance around girls and young people's periods and menstruation at younger and younger ages, because controlling women is very easy to do when you control their ability to choose whether or not to have kids.
The fight for women's rights over our bodies is more than a fight against ignorance. It's the fight against the American family written by men long ago. It's a fight against the misogynistic foundations of society that sees women more valuable as wives and mothers than simply being human. And through television, we are able to catch this truth in HD.